This meeting is being recorded.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are going to get started in just a moment here. Thank you so much for taking your lunch hour to spend some time with us today. And today is going to be audio only, but I see some familiar names and faces. Well, familiar names. And we got, hey, Coach T. So good to have you. Hey, Coach Larisha. Oh, my goodness. How have you been? And hey, Tracy.
Hello, hello.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we will go ahead and get started. I know this is some of you guys' lunch break, but today we are going to be talking about finishing what you've started. Hey, Coach Larisha, what's the latest? How have you been? Okay.
Hello.
It was kind of low. Say it again.
Hello.
Hey there. Oh my goodness. It's like a little reunion. So awesome, awesome.
Leave my
Well,
desk to go to lunch so I can listen.
I'm sorry, Coach. Say it again.
I was trying to leave my desk to go to lunch so I can listen.
Okay, yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to pop in, even though you're working. So thank you, thank you. Well, I am excited to talk about this today. And you know what? And I think it comes from a personal space because it's like I've been there where it's like, okay, I have this thing, it's on my heart. I know I need to do it. And you know, life be life, as they say. And so, what happens when we have those subtle things? And I have to, frequently ask myself these things like, okay, is this me procrastinating? Is this me not feeling like I have what I need? And I tell you what, putting those things behind, like kind of stuff that kind of constantly goes down to the list, down to the bottom of the list, it can be so sneaky. It really can be. And it can be one of those things where it's like, okay, yeah, 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 I'm going to get it done. And next thing you know, it's been a year, it's been 2 years, it's been 3 years, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, just something to think about when you are um, considering your goals and things that you want to achieve. Really quick, there's one person I just want to make sure they have this link here, and then we will go ahead and hop in. Okay, so make sure they have that. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us on today. And so, yeah, today it's going to be pretty brief. Again, I know this is lunch for a lot of you all, and so yeah, we're gonna get in and get going. I think we're on. Okay, I'm gonna share my slides with you all. Welcome, welcome, Jasmine. Happy to have you. Welcome. Come on
Hello.
in. Hey, how have you
Good. How
been?
about you?
I am well. I am well. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about finishing what you started. Finish what you started. And I think everybody on here knows me, but I'll just introduce myself. Hi, my name is Dr. Elyssa Lassiter. I'm the Say Life coach, and I'm so grateful to God for our Say Life family. And our mission is centered around 1 Thessalonians 5:11. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up. And that is what we're all about. So, for some of you, and actually, if you are a business owner, just put a one in the chat. If you are a business owner, just pop a one in the chat for me there. And yeah, if you own a business, okay, perfect, awesome, awesome. And I also see we have Sean G. Welcome, Sean. Glad to have you in here as well. Okay, we got a lot of business owners. So if you're a business owner, pop a one in the chat. I know Sean is with Reach One Communications. So that is great that you were able to pop off the air and pop onto the Zoom today. So thank you for joining in. And you guys, yes, this is a webinar, but I want this to be a two-way discussion. Like, feel free to unmute, feel free to ask questions. And also, you never know how you can connect with somebody else. It was so interesting. I was in a big webinar the other day. Well, maybe it's been a couple of weeks, but they said, "Hey, introduce yourself." And one of the people said, "Oh, I'm from Vicksburg, Mississippi." I was like, "What? Me too." So Tracy knows she's from Vicksburg as well. If you meet a Vicksburg person, chances are you know their mama, their daddy, their cousin, somebody like that. So anyway, right? So feel free to connect in the chat as well. So with your mission of your business, it really is that guiding principle, and it helps. If you're in between a rock and a hard place, or you're trying to make a tough decision, that mission, that vision will help you to really just kind of discern what you need to do in that regard. So that's why ours is encourage one another and build each other up. And so the decisions we make in our business are centered around that. Just for your just a heads up, my neighbor decided to cut the grass. My dog is not a fan. So at some point, you may meet my dog, Happy, as she may bark during this webinar. And our purpose is that we are equipping you with the tools you need to empower yourself in life, confidence speaking, coaching, and in business. I'm so grateful to God to have been able to speak on different platforms like Newsmax, HGTV, on the TEDx stage, and I have my little jingle bell because I have to shout out our coaches. So woo-hoo! If you have been through the Say Life Coach Institute, in fact, I think all of you who are on have been affiliated with the Say Life Coach Institute in some way. And fun fact, we got two of our speakers on, Sean and also Tracy. I almost said Coach Sean and Coach Tracy. I may be putting that into existence there, speaking that into existence. But I see some of our Say Life grads and some of our Own Your Own grads. And I believe Coach T, if this is, yeah, we got Coach T on. That is my twin coach because we have the same birthday, 3-3, which is awesome. But anywho, truly, when we started the Say Life Coach Institute, that was in March of 2020. And as many of you all remember, back in March 2020, we're like, oh yeah, we'll just kind of pause our activities for like 2 weeks or something. And what started out as 2 weeks of change ended up being more like 2 years. And so, for many of the coaches who joined during that time, that was, you know, that's our people. That's who we talk to. That's who we were able to connect with, because we weren't really able to do much otherwise, in the form of like going and meeting people and in person. And so truly, one thing I'm really value about our Say Life family is that we do life together. So I'm so grateful to do life with you. And what we do is we merge faith, coaching, and transformation as well. Okay, so a quick icebreaker. Certainly you can unmute, but if you're unable to do so, you can just pop it in the chat. So let's just get down to the nitty gritty. What goal are you still sitting on? What goal are you still sitting on? It's that thing that kind of goes down to the bottom of your to do list. What is that goal that you are sitting on? Like when you saw this in your email and we talked about, hey, we do have less than 90 days until the end of the year. And what is it that you still want to achieve that you haven't had a chance to? So let's just get it out in the open. What's that thing that you have been sitting on that you want to accomplish that you just feel like you hadn't gotten around to it yet? It could be a business goal. It could be um, a career goal. It could be a personal goal, maybe mental health or mindset or wellness. So feel free to pop it in the chat. I'll give you just a moment. And even if you're not comfortable, okay. All right. Oh, okay. These are really great things. Starting your life coaching practice. Yes, coach. Absolutely. Completing your book, Triumph Over Tragedy. That sounds, you know what? Now I want to hear about the book. Now I want to hear about the coaching practice. And okay, yeah, home office was recently remodeled and boxes are everywhere. You need to declutter and organize. Yeah, absolutely. And I get it. Sometimes just thinking about this stuff is like, ooh. So, yeah, great. Thank you so much for sharing those things. And again, no judgment. This is a safe space. So let's talk a little bit about vision. And I had this, oh gosh, I hope I can say it the way that I said it at the webinar last night. But um, let's talk about your vision. And we're not just dreaming. What we're doing here is we're casting purposeful vision. So some people get it confused with daydreaming. And it's so funny I don't know if any of y'all had this issue too, but when I was little, like in the first grade, our teacher would give us something pretty simple to do, but my teacher would just be like, well, sometimes she just stares out the window. And I'm like, it's nice out there. That's why I'm looking out the window. And it's great because here in my office at home in my study, I have just this window where I can look at the trees and it's so beautiful. But I think one thing that's helpful is that I want to make sure Naomi can get into the room. One thing that's helpful is also taking some of these things that may be that some people may not see as a strength and using them to turn it around to be a strength. Give me 1 second, guys. Let me just make sure that Naomi can get in here. Okay. Bear with me. So there we go. Gotcha. Okay, so with that said, we want to use intention with aligned action. Intention with aligned action. Hey, Naomi, welcome, welcome. I had just put a question in the, to the group to name that goal. What have you been sitting on? What has been that goal that you're sitting on? Hey, welcome. Good to see you. And then also, I want to save some time, maybe at one point of this webinar, for any of you all just to share kind of what you do. I probably should have done it at the beginning, but to share what you do, share about your business or what it is, how, maybe you're able to serve and help other people. I know Naomi is our fabulous financial advisor for the Stay Life Coach Institute, as well as she has her fitness company. So definitely would love to hear more about what she does. So feel free to share in the chat that goal that you have been sitting on. So again, going back to casting purposeful vision, maybe, as a kid, and hey, we all do the best we can with what the information we have at the time. Instead of saying, oh, she just kind of, daydreams and, drifts off, it may be like, hey, let's see how to take her ability of daydreaming or visualizing, and how can we turn it into something, um, how can we make it tangible as well, and honoring that part. So again, I get it. They're like, I just want you to copy the word from the board on your paper. But for me, I think about that now as an adult, and it's like, wow, now I'm able to use that as a way to see something that's not there and build something that's not there. So it can be there. For example, it may be your business, it may be a community, it may be your coaching practice. Thank you for sharing in the chat, Sean. Yes, feel free to share links, social media, all of that, because I think networking is so important. So your inner seeing can turn into your outer shaping. And vision casting is also clarity in motion. So I had a moment the other day, and it was just like, okay, let me take a good look. Let me take a good look at what's around me so that can give me an idea on what I need to do, what I need to change. And I was looking at my outer circumstances, and I was like, okay, what do I need to adjust? But then sometimes we can get so stuck on what we see that we don't connect with what we see. And I know y'all can't see me, but what I'm pointing at my head. We can get so fixated on what we see that we don't connect with, now I'm putting my finger to my head, what we see. And sometimes we have to see it up here first before we can see it out in our reality. So don't forget what you saw, because you see what you see. in your outer. And so I was like, okay. I was like looking at my circumstances. I was looking at things going on around me. I was like, okay, what is this telling me? What do I need to change? But I had to forget not to forget what I saw visually in my mind. So what do you do when your environment doesn't match your desires? What do you do when you're not sure of what that next move is? And what do you do when the data of your life doesn't match your dreams? So what we can do, I think I'm not just saying, say, la, la, la. I'm not paying attention to any of these circumstances. No, see what it wants to teach you, gather data, but don't anchor to that. So I think of, the example with Tyler Perry. If he was so connected to the things that he saw in that reality when he was sleeping out of his car, when he had one person or no people come up to his plays, and if he got fixated on what he saw, then he couldn't achieve what he saw. And now you look and you see all the amazing things that he's doing, the huge studios that he operates, and all of the impact that he's making in the world. Someone who's looking more so at the 3D, looking at what you just see in black and white, would get so fixated on that. Well, maybe you need to do something else. Maybe this ain't for you. Maybe you need to try something different. And so I can even attest to, even before the Say Life Coach Institute, where I just knew, I was like, no, I know this is going to come about. I don't know how, but I know it's going to. And I didn't stop. And when you think, and we talked about this in one of our episodes of Say Life TV, which I'll try to pop the link in there. A lot happens in the ground when you plant a seed. It has to get past the dirt. It even has to break through its own self. But if you stop watering that seed too soon, who knows what it could have been? And the same applies for your goals. And the same applies for what it is that you are working on. Okay. So again, look at what's going on around you and use it as data, but we don't have to anchor to that. Okay, so I am looking at the chat here. Thank you so much for sharing about Levco Tech. Yes, you guys check them out. They also have Facebook and Instagram pages. And then Naomi says, I almost said Coach Naomi, so I'm just putting that out there. The goal you've been sitting on is moving into the next step in your fitness business, and you feel like you're playing it safe. Just for a moment, Naomi, tell me, you can even, come off mute or pop it in the chat. What does the next step in your business look like? If you're able to.
Yeah, so that's probably part of my issue.
Mm,
My next step sometimes is different every day.
mm,
I
mhm,
am I know what I'm doing now. I'm good at what I'm doing now. I'm happy. Maybe I'm complacent.
mm,
But I know that there's more.
mhm,
And so for me, it's like, okay, what is actually my next step? Sometimes like today, I feel like it's a Pilates studio. Like
okay.
that's what I've really been gearing toward for the last, probably like not today, like literally, but like for the last month or so. It's been,
Yeah.
moving into a Pilates studio, going
Wow.
ahead and getting that space for myself.
Mm,
But
mhm.
I don't know, it's a scary move.
What's the scary part?
The scary part is failure.
Mhm. Can
I think that's the
anybody
only
else?
thing I'm afraid of is failure.
Mm-hmm. Can anybody else relate to that? Kind of being afraid to get started because you don't want to fail.
And I mean, even a slow start is okay. Like,
Mm,
with my finance business, I had a very slow start, but it grew and
mm,
it did phenomenal.
yeah.
So it's not like I've never started a business before. It's not like I don't know how these feelings are, but it's almost like, I guess, just the thought of starting over with something, and then, I know what the ups and downs are of business. I know, how it's gonna have me up sometimes at night. I'm gonna be super happy one day, and then the next day I'm gonna be, pulling my hair out. So
Not
I
growth.
know how this is gonna go. And I'm like so afraid to go through this again.
Mm. Well, definitely, you're getting a lot of support in the chat and folks who have feel the same way. And I'm gonna go over this stuff on the next slide, but I actually kind of want to dive into that just a little bit, if you're okay with that. So we can just maybe put a little bookmark there. But it's real. And then, there's also different things like maybe some of you have families, or even if it's just you solo, like, I don't know about y'all, but I like to have food on my table and I enjoy when my lights are on and my water's running. So these are like all the things that you're kind of thinking of when it comes to, um, yeah, when it comes to really stepping out there. Coach Larisha says she's afraid to leave corporate, but she knows that coaching is her calling and purpose, but corporate feels safe. Yeah. And if I could just, say, one of our coaches told me this. In fact, she wasn't a coach at the time. We met and actually she came to our Say Life launch. Aw. And then she ended up becoming a coach later. Coach Katrina. She's in the group. Katrina sells candles. And she talked about her corporate job as this. She said, it's paid training for my purpose. And I was like, ooh, that's good. Can I use that later? And she said, yes. So I am taking that liberty now. But, using that opportunity to learn what you need to learn and seeing it as like, okay, if I know, and I'm not necessarily saying for any of y'all, like, leave your job tomorrow. Wait, not saying that. Please don't say that the Say Life lady told you to quit your job tomorrow. But um, it may be one of those things where it's like, okay, let me set my goal, so you kind of see it as a means to an end, and then you come up with your plan. Now, for me, it was not like that. Many of you all know my story and my testimony about being able to spend that precious time with my mom before she went home to be with the Lord. And so that was the catalyst for me leaving leaving corporate job, is because I had to. And, God provided. And, so many people, they say, hey, you need to have what, 6 months to a year of savings. And I didn't do any of that. Not saying that that's the right thing to do, but in my situation, that's how I was able to make that leap. And I had a plan. I was like, okay, in about a year, I'm going to be working part time, working remotely, blah, blah, blah. And it went a different way. But yeah, so now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that have been holding us back. And then, I know some of you are on your lunch break. So if you may have to hop off early, that's okay. I'll reach out to you one-on-one. But I want to talk about what's been holding you all back. And then maybe even have a moment for some live coaching for those of you who are able to, to chat, or even if you need to just type it in the chat, that's fine. But sometimes, like, I've gotten on the phone and I've coached some folks, and it's been like, okay, they feel like they're procrastinating. Like, oh, they're a procrastinator, and not just procrastinating. They may identify as a procrastinator, which sometimes when we identify with a certain thing, that becomes our identity. Like, for example, I'm a nice person, so if I do I don't think I'll do a mean thing, but if I do a mean thing, it's like, whoop, that was kind of random. I don't know why that happened, because I'm a nice person and nice people don't do that. Okay, let's use a different example, because I am a nicey, I'm not mean. But let's just say somebody who's an early bird. Maybe you identify as somebody who's an early bird. You get up early. And maybe you have one day where you oversleep. And then it's like, oh, that was weird. I guess I needed that sleep. But say, for example, if you identify as a late riser, someone who gets up late, but you happen to get up early one morning, you don't automatically call yourself an early bird. You're like, oh, wow, I'm up early. Weird. And then you go on about your day. So sometimes I have gotten on sessions and they're like, oh, I need help with procrastination because I just procrastinate all the time. Um, it may not necessarily be that. There may be something underneath that. And here are some of the things, even, Naomi courageously sharing some of the things that she was experiencing, fear of success or failure. And it's so subtle. It can be really subtle. Um, and when you start seeing that your actions are not lining up with the things that you want, it's time to reevaluate. So if I say, okay, I want this, but I'm doing the opposite, am I afraid to succeed? Or here's another one that I didn't even put on here: burnout and exhaustion. You could be tired. Maybe you felt like you've been in survival mode for a long time, or maybe you've gone through some really challenging life stuff back to back to back, or whatever. So this may be something to just to take a look at. Okay. And then also, maybe you're afraid of failure. It could be letting somebody down. It could be letting yourself down. It could be maybe afraid to, you don't want to lose the money. It may be that sort of thing. Or putting it out there, maybe on Facebook or social media. And they're like, oh, well, she's not doing that anymore. And to be honest, when I started the Say Life Coach Institute, I, I had some people, I said, oh, hey, I'm having a Say Life launch. Save life. What's that? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, it's a life coaching practice. You're more than welcome to come. If not, no worries. And I just let it go. She ended up attending, which is very nice. But, it may be one of those things where they may be like, oh, okay, well, she was doing life coaching and then she doing TV and then she doing this and then she doing, you know, and I thought about that, but for some reason I really didn't care. But it may be just also fear of visibility, which is not on here. Also, nervous system dysregulation. Sometimes when been so used to being stressed, or you've been so used to being, um, just kind of like high strung or all that, when you finally get a break, it may feel like, oh, I need to be grinding. I need to be hustling. What's going on? And so sometimes we may subconsciously go back to those behaviors, even though, according to neuroscience, the brain resists change when it feels unsafe, even if the change is good. So whether that's starting a new workout routine, starting your business, I know there have been some times where I'm like, man, this will be so good for me to do, but it's like, my brain is like, no, we don't want to do that right now. It may be launching a project or even speaking in public. Also, it may be lack of support. Sometimes it's not about the procrastination. It may be, maybe you don't feel supported. How can I feel more supported? Or maybe I need a little bit of structure. Or it could be the I'm not enough thoughts. And y'all, I'll tell you the story when I had first started Own Your Own. So we were going to do um, the conference. And I was so excited and I was writing down ideas and I was like, yeah. And then I was like, wait a minute. Because I'd never hosted an event like that before. I was like, how do I rent a speaker? Like, I don't know how to get the system, the PA system or the amplifier. I was like, oh my gosh, if I have this person at this station speak, how can I promote it on this station? Oh no, what if I pay for this place and people don't? And next thing you know, I was writing, I was typing, I was so excited. And then my fingers started to slow down and then they stopped. And I felt like God was leading me to write down, what is the fear? What's that monster under the bed? And I was like, ooh, Lord, I want to write them down. But I did. And then I was able to answer them with faith. I was able to answer them with reason. I was able to answer those things with good ideas. And so the I'm not enough, or I'm not good enough, or this won't work can be so subtle. And sometimes we have to press through anyway. And it may not be perfect. It may not be perfect, but sometimes when you can break through that first barrier, then the rest will come. And then, yeah, sometimes you may experience those thoughts. And, you know, courage is not about being fearless, it's about feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So I just want to pause really quick. Does any of this resonate with you all? Some of these things that you're seeing about things that may be holding you back. And I also want to answer any questions, even like questions that you might have about your situation and like that first step. So, yeah, I want to open the floor. And also, by the way, if anybody else wants to encourage someone, or maybe you have an experience that was helpful, feel free to share that as well.
Okay, I hate to be the one that keeps talking the whole time, but
Good.
so the I am not enough part.
Mhm.
In this particular business, the fitness business,
Mhm. I just thought of some. I'm gonna tell
it
you
that
now.
to me that resonates with me heavy because
Mhm.
you know you're on social media, your body, and lifestyle and everything is a part of the business. So
Mm,
you have to look a certain way and present a certain way.
mm,
And even though it's the same in the fitness industry, I mean, in the financial industry as well, but it's a little less stressful.
mm,
I have an accounting background. I've been doing tax accounting and I have degrees in accounting, so it came very natural. Even though
mm,
I've coached and worked out forever,
mm,
the expectation I feel like of where I should be, especially, and I don't know if anybody else on this call, I don't mind you knowing, I'm 40 years old. So I'm 40, I'm a mom, which works to a certain demographic, to the demographic that I'm actually marketing to. But just in general, putting that out there and having that,
mm,
on social media is like sometimes the I'm not enough feeling is very overwhelming.
mm. Yeah. One, I want to say thank you for your transparency. Um, and I want to. I'm trying to keep my coach hat on, but my friend hat keeps slipping on. I also want to remind you, we had a conversation. I don't know if you remember. We had a conversation and you were like, should I put this fitness out here? Because of, some of the things like, like you said, maybe your age or your look, which is fabulous, by the way. But anyway, um, and you were like, should I put this? I was like, girl, if you don't post that video, and I don't know if Afro Girl Fitness or somebody shared your video and you went
Yeah.
from like 1,000 followers to, and I pulled up your page, you got 12.9 thousand followers on Instagram
Yeah. Yeah.
because you put it out there. Was it
Yeah.
perfect? You may have been in like your garage or something.
I
Like,
was. I was literally in my garage at the time working out. I was doing fitness videos in my garage. Yep.
yeah. So, I mean, I have chill bumps just thinking about it. Like, so just a gentle reminder of that. And, the next time it may not be, somebody, a big page sharing it. It may be, the clients coming in. It may be, where you literally change somebody's life. Like the work that each of you all here are doing is life-changing work. And I'm sorry, I don't even remember what the question was because I just had to remind you of that part. And you
Yeah.
just showed up. You showed up.
Yeah. No, it was me just basically saying like the I'm not enough,
Mhm.
aspect. I don't know if anybody else on here does the same thing, but like I have, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but like my algorithm shows me a lot of other people in the same industry doing what I aspire to do or am
Mhm.
doing.
Yeah.
And, you look at them and their page looks so perfect, or, their following is, 10 times bigger, or, their events, they throw an event and, they have 300 people show up, and I might
Mhm.
have 15 or 30,
Mhm.
and it's like, why am I not able to do the same things that these other people are doing? Then you have all this self doubt, and the I'm not enough thing comes in again. It's just like a never ending cycle. Even though, yes, like you said, with the general reminder, um, when I think back to how this all started, I'm way beyond that. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Mhm.
definitely making progress, but it's like, what is it that's holding me back from, and I guess that's what I'm kind of considering my next step. What is it that's holding me back from the next, maybe not step but level?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
like what's holding me back from that? Is it me? Is it what I'm not doing? Is it structure? Because that
Mhm.
could be a very big part of it as well. As I'm looking through this list, I'm like, you know what, structure might be an issue.
Okay. Yeah. I think, my advice would be, first, we're talking about what's holding you back from the next level. I think first is determining what that next level is for Naomi. Like, have you written it down? I know Dr. Gail Matthews said, did the research, we're 42% more likely to achieve something just by writing it down. So I want, a little hard work for everybody to write down what your next level looks like. So have you had a chance to really define what that next level looks like for Naomi?
Mm, honestly, no, I don't know. No.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And sometimes when we're trying to surpass this invisible bar, like we're trying to surpass this invisible level, um, it feels like it's unreachable because we haven't defined where it is.
Right, right.
And so I think maybe even taking some of the skills that you have that you've done to build your financial business and kind of copy and paste them to this fitness business, which I think is awesome. So I think maybe that's step one, because maybe you are, as you mentioned, you're a lot farther along than you were however many months or years ago, or however long ago. So maybe determining that next level first, and then who knows, you may be there, you might have surpassed it. But sometimes, again, I've even had to, I clicked on one video, and I noticed my algorithm started showing me more of that. And it wasn't necessarily something I wanted to see, but it kind of feeds that to you. So I
Mhm.
do, kind of like, oh, it's so interesting, but no, I don't want to click on it now. And so I kind of, you know, intentionally try to reroute my algorithm. But it is sometimes, this is, just me being a nerd at this point, but like, even when we're scrolling on social media, technically that puts us in a hypnotic state. Or like, have you ever like watched a movie, or you're watching a show and you didn't realize, like, dang, how long have I been watching this movie? It's because we're in a sort of hypnotic state. So we're more sensitive to the things that we're seeing in that moment, because we're just kind of, I don't want to say mindlessly scrolling, but we're just kind of open in that way. So, I think sometimes when we bring awareness to that, it's like, okay, yes, I see what they're doing. But let me also tell you this, it'd be people who be buying followers. Okay. It's folks who use all kind of apps and makes things look like they're not how they don't look in person. So I want to encourage you in that regard to, sometimes it can be a lot of smoke and mirrors, especially, in that type of industry too. So, you know, uh not to get discouraged in that way.
Yeah, well, I definitely appreciate that because it does. We're all human and like we all have these doubts. And I'm sure someone else is looking at my page aspiring to do what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and it's like, there's always someone who wants to be in your position. And, you're in your position, you're always looking at someone and thinking, well, why can't this be me? Or, why am I not doing better? But yeah, I definitely am going to write these things down because you're right. There's an invisible bar that I'm trying to, surpass, and I'll never do it until I know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to for you to get that insight. And here's something else, just a tip. This kind of came to my mind. So, this did not come out in last night's webinar, so I'm glad you all are here. But there, sometimes when we, again, pardon me being a nerd here, but there's something called the reticular activating system. And if I say, all right, y'all, look around the room and tell me everything that's brown. So you look around the room, okay, that's brown, that's brown, that's brown. And I say, close your eyes. Now tell me everything that's red. You're gonna be like, wait, what? Kind of the direction that the commands or the instructions that we give our mind, we're going to be conditioned to notice. So just for example, if you have somebody that say, oh, all women ain't, diddly squat, or guys aren't diddly squat, or, everybody's gonna, betray you. So there may be equal amount of people who could possibly betray one, and the same amount of people who could also do them good, do them well. But because they have tuned into that, I'll call it the radio station, of folks who are going to, you know, mess them over, uh, that's what they're going to be attuned to notice. Just how if I say, okay, I'm going to look for everything green, and I close my, okay, that book, my aunt's Bible bag over here is green. My this book over here is green. Okay. However, I think the same goes for asking ourselves empowering questions. So sometimes if we say, "Gosh, why is nobody showing up?" We're gonna be, and so even if somebody does show up, we may not. That may not be the top of mind. And I know I've been there in my life. When I was younger, I had some issues with some friends, and I want to. Yes, I'm gonna get to you, Sean. I had some issues with some friends, and the ones that weren't so good for me were standing out so much in my mind that when I think about that time, I'm like, oh man, I actually had some really good friends. And I didn't focus on that. And so, where your focus grows, energy grows. Yes, Sean.
Yes, hi. I just want to make sure. Can any of you all hear me, by the way, first and foremost?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. Hi, everybody. I'm Sean. I'm just curious to know, am I the only guy here on this video call, or I don't
Perhaps. Perhaps, but we
know.
appreciate the male
Yeah.
energy that you bring to the class.
Oh, thank you so much. And my intention wasn't to speak up or speak out during your meeting today. But I just heard a young lady speak just a few moments ago, and I wanted to quarterback to what she just said just a few moments ago. Um, Let me also say this because I'm a person who works in the media broadcasting field. I'm sorry, my phone was going off here. I'm a person who works in the media broadcasting field. Have 23 going on 24 years experience working in broadcasting, like E just mentioned. And what I have to say regarding social media is, at the end of the day, it's about quality over quantity. And a person can have 1.7K followers, 2.7, and et cetera, et cetera. It's like here today, gone tomorrow. And it could be a number of different things. A person could say something wrong on social media and end up losing followers. Whether followers don't like what that person has said, or is certain restrictions on social media platforms nowadays that you can't say certain things, but you can say certain things and it could get flagged down. So I wanted to just impart, and everyone, including the young sister that just spoke a few moments ago, is that um, there are people out there that revolve their whole entire life around social media, and to not worry about so much of the huge following on social media or what people are posting on social media. Like, I had to learn that in the years of building my platform and using social media as a way to get the word out there about my platform. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of energy, especially with social media, because you have to do this and you have to do that on social media to grow your audience. And your audience will grow in due time, depending on the type of work you put in, who is in your support system, who is in your group, and so forth and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's like everybody's in this race. Well, almost everybody's in this race of trying to get million followers on TikTok, on Instagram, and revolve their life around social media. And then that's when the mental illness comes in. And as a person who is also a mental health advocate, I have seen so many people crash out on social media because it gets to a point where you have all these followers that are following you on social media. Now you are able to put out whatever content you want for shock value or for attention or whatever. But then what happens when you run out of content, or you go into, or you pivot into a different direction to still get that million of followers to tune in, and then all of a sudden you crash out mentally because now you're on a platform where everybody is saying things that are trauma based, negative based, just to keep up with the algorithm, and that can cause some serious mental illness problems during your time of trying to build a following or build a platform on social media. So I just wanted to impart that in anybody and everybody, including myself, that is always on social media. We're all about building, and we got to build from a place of integrity and not from a place of everybody doing the same thing on social media just to get the likes, the following, and the attention. So I just wanted to mention that really quick. E. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Well, thank you, Sean. And also just thank you for yeah, just your encouragement in that regard. And true, there's a lot of everything that glitters isn't gold. So we see things that may look a certain way on social media, but it may be different in real life. And I've definitely I know personally some people, and also as who may be experiencing that. And then also when you are growing your coaching practice, for some, I know we have majority coaches on, or people who may be in that industry, when you may see a coach that has like a zillion followers, but that doesn't mean that they're making money. It doesn't mean that they're monetizing what they're doing. But you may see somebody that has 300 followers, but clients are coming in the door. So again, it really just depends on um, kind of, you see the other people doing the things, and also stay focused on what it is you are doing as well. So thank you for hopping in on that, Sean. Anybody else before we start to wrap up? Okay. So really, this is just a preview of what we have, which is the finish what you started inner circle, and it's just an opportunity to clear that the subconscious blocks that may be preventing you from doing what it is you want to do. It helps to fuel that inner fire and activate that support and strategy. And sometimes we just need to have somebody that says, "Oh, okay, let me look at these things. Okay, I think this is what you should do first, or have you tried doing this first?" Or sometimes, like we talked about, just writing it down, so it doesn't feel like this um, kind of indefinite climbing of the ladder and we don't know what's coming up. And also, again, we are less than 90 days to the end of the year, and so sometimes we can look at something, or we can look at the end of the year and say, man, back in January, back in February, I wanted to do this, this, and this, and I haven't made any progress toward that. And so this is just a reminder to finish what you started. And so again, this is what we did today, was just a sneak peek of the Say Life Finish What You Started inner circle. And what that looks like specifically is that we come together as a group once a week until the end of the year. And then it's not just, talking about what we have going on, but, whether you're achieving a business goal, a personal goal, a financial goal, a wealth goal, a health goal, um, there are basic principles that you apply to each one of those things. And that's what we come together to do. And then also you'll have access to the portal and accountability to make sure that that we get to that goal before the end of the year. So again, this is just a moment to remind you to finish what you started.